Hi kids, welcome back to another installment of Storytime with Father Joe. I hope that you guys are still feeling really good, that you are continuing to pray. Remember, that was my homework to you last week, and it will always be my homework to you, that you continue to pray and ask God for the grace and everything that you need from Him so that you can continue to grow in love of Him and in love of your family and your friends and everyone around you. So I hope you're doing well. We asked a lot of you to vote what you think my little bear companion's name ought to be. We didn't get too many votes, but there were a couple. There was just one vote there was one that kind of stood out. And I said to him, do you think that that's your name? And I think he's on board. And so I'd like to now be able to introduce you properly. This little guy to my right, your left I think, his name is Cuddles. Okay, Cuddles the bear. And so Cuddles is very happy that you're here too. And he's going to join us here for a little story. And today we're going to learn about Joseph. Now, if I were to ask good kids that know their Bible, if I were to ask them who Joseph is, I bet you a lot of you may have already said this out loud, that he is the husband of Mary. And that's true. Mary, the mother of Jesus, married Joseph, who was like a father to him, took care of him and cared for him as a kind of a foster parent. But today we're going to talk about the other Joseph that comes out in the Bible. Yeah, there's another Joseph. There's a couple actually. But this Joseph is found in the Old Testament. And so we're going to read about him today. Okay, let's get started. This story is called The Dreamer. This is the story of a man named Joseph and how God used the evil plans of some to save the lives of many. And here is the first little image that we have. There's this guy here. He looks really important, doesn't he? And then we have these two gentlemen over here. We're going to find out who they are. Okay? It says, long, long ago, there lived a man named Jacob who had 12 sons. But he loved his son Joseph best of all and gave him a beautiful robe of many colors. This made Joseph's brothers hate him. Here is Joseph with his beautiful robe that his father gave him of multiple colors. And here are his brothers in the background, and they look really upset. They don't really seem to like Joseph. We're told that they hated him. They were jealous that their father seemed to like him the most. Sometime later, Joseph dreamed that he and his brothers were gathering bundles of grain. Suddenly, Joseph's bundle stood straight up, while the others all bowed down to him. When Joseph told his brothers about the dream, they said, do you really think we'll bow down to you? And they hated him even more. Joseph was just telling them about a dream that he had. There's a dream. He's telling them about how he had several things of wheat, and this one was his, and his stood up, and the other ones look like they're bowing to it, doesn't it? Next page. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were in the fields with their flocks. The brothers saw him coming and planned a way to kill him. But one brother said, don't kill him. Throw him into this pit instead. So the brothers did just that. There he is in the pit. See, the brothers are all standing around. There's this big hole in the ground, and they threw him in there because they decided not to kill him. When a caravan of Ishmaelites passed by, the brothers sold Joseph to them as a slave. They then dipped his beautiful robe in animal blood and gave it to their father. Jacob thought a wild animal had killed his son. Here is Joseph being taken away as a slave. Look how sad he is. Pretty mean thing that the brothers did, isn't it? The brothers just betrayed him because they were so jealous and angry. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to a man named Potiphar. But God was with Joseph and blessed him in everything he did. Potiphar saw this and put him in charge of all his household. When Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph to betray his master, Joseph said no. So she told a terrible lie about him, and Potiphar threw him in prison. But even in prison, God was with Joseph. Soon he was in charge of all the other prisoners. There he is locked away, and there's Potiphar and his wife who made something up and lied to get him in trouble. Sometime later, Pharaoh, the king, became angry with his cupbearer and baker and put them in prison too. There they both dreamed strange dreams. With God's help, Joseph explained their dreams. The cupbearer would go back to his job, but the baker would die. "Tell Pharaoh about me," Joseph begged the cupbearer. But when the cupbearer returned to Pharaoh, he forgot all about Joseph. There they are in the prison. Two years later, Pharaoh also dreamed strange dreams. 7 plump, healthy cows were eaten by 7 thin, ugly cows, and 7 thin heads of grain ate up 7 fat heads of grain. No one could tell Joseph what the dreams meant. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. With God's help, Joseph said, "Your dreams mean that there will be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. You should appoint a man to gather up all your extra food during the good years. Then store it so that Egypt won't starve during the famine." Pharaoh said, "You will be that man. You will be over all of Egypt. Only I will be greater than you, Joseph." Here he is, Joseph, explaining the dream to the Pharaoh, explaining to him that there's going to be a time of famine. That means that there's not going to be enough food for everyone. And so, but first they're going to have years of a lot of food. And so Joseph tells him, look, you have to be careful. We're going to have to save our food as best as we can, so that when the time of drought, of famine, when there's not enough food to go around, we're going to have plenty of food stocked up. During the 7 good years, Joseph stored up all the extra grain. When the famine came, only Egypt had grain, and people from every nation came to Joseph to buy food. Jacob, his father, even sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. But the youngest son, Benjamin, didn't go. Jacob was afraid something might happen to him. Here they are going towards Egypt to go buy food because the famine is everywhere. There isn't enough food anywhere, and only Joseph has access to food. Joseph's brothers came and bowed before him. Joseph knew them instantly, but they did not know him. Joseph pretended to be angry and called them spies. Then he threw them in prison. After 3 days, Joseph kept one brother in prison and sent the rest home. "Don't come back unless you bring your youngest brother with you," he said. "Then I will know you aren't spies." So there they are, and he's sending them away. That's Joseph, if you didn't know that. That's Joseph. See, those are his brothers, but they don't know that they don't recognize him. The brothers told their father all that had happened. Still, Jacob wouldn't let Benjamin go. But soon the grain was gone, and Jacob had no choice. If Benjamin didn't go to Egypt, they would all starve. So once more the brothers went to Joseph. But after their bags were filled with grain, Joseph secretly ordered that his own silver cup be hidden in Benjamin's bag. Here's Benjamin. And so there's his father, and he finally accepts to send him. The next morning, the brothers set off. They hadn't gone far when Joseph's servant caught up to them. "Why have you stolen my master's cup?" he said. "We didn't steal anything," the brothers said, but the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. The brothers tore their clothes in sadness and returned to Joseph's house. There they fell to the ground before him. Joseph could stand it no longer. "I am Joseph," he cried. The brothers were terrified. But Joseph said, "Don't be worried or angry with yourselves. God sent me here ahead of you to keep you alive. Go back and bring my father and all your families here. I will make sure that you have plenty of food." There he is, taking off his hat so that they can recognize him as his brother. Joseph's brother did as he said, and that is how the Hebrew people came to live in Egypt. There he is with his brothers. You see that? Joseph's brothers had planned to hurt him by selling him as a slave. But God took their plan and used it to save not only their lives, but many more lives as well. In the same way, the men who put Jesus on the cross had an evil plan. But God used their plan for the great good of all his people. You see, Mr. Cuddles, sometimes people do very bad things, evil things. That's what Joseph's brothers did. What they did was wrong, was evil. And the people that had Jesus killed, that was wrong. That was evil. But God is so amazing. God is so powerful, and he loves us so much that God is able to make it so that even when things go wrong, even when people are mean and don't give of themselves, God can still make wonderful things happen. You know, in the last couple weeks, we've all been kind of stuck indoors, and maybe we've gone out a little bit, but not very much. And I know that that can get frustrating, but we have to remember that God continues to be with us, that God does not abandon us, that Jesus is there with you, with your family, with your friends, that Jesus is always walking with us. And even when things seem like they are going into utter darkness, like things are never going to get better, God remains with us. So we can't lose hope. Kiddos, I invite you to keep praying and asking God to inspire you to do good things, holy things. That God inspire you to always love people, to forgive them when they hurt you or they insult you, and to continue to serve and help each other so that all of us can know how much God loves us, so that all of us can feel at peace and live in harmony with each other. Me and Cuddles are going to have to sign off. I would have loved to be able to do a second reading today. Unfortunately, I only have time for one story today, but we'll be back next week, me and Cuddles, and we're going to be with you, and we're going to read another story. If you're interested, we're going to have another story in a few minutes, but that's going to be in Spanish. So if you know Spanish, we'd love for you to join us at 8:30. For now, if you're not going to join us at 8:30, have a good night. Make sure that you pray before you go to bed. Make sure you tell your parents and your family that you love them and hug them, and you tell them that you forgive them for anything that might have happened, and you ask for forgiveness if you did something wrong. And remember that Christ, Jesus, and Mary are with you every single day at every single moment. Bye, kids.